Hello, we are getting started on our next unit in Algebra 1, which is the equations and inequality unit. So for this unit, we are going to start by learning how to solve one-step and two-step equations. So let's look at this now. If I want to get x by itself, I have to start by getting rid of the 8. So because plus 8, I have to subtract 8 to both sides. So that would give me x equals 12 minus 8 is 4. This is an example of one-step equation because it only took us one step to isolate the variable. In this next one, I need to get rid of the minus 2. To do that, I would add 2. 23 plus 2 is 25. All right, this next one, I have 5y equals 55. That 5 is being multiplied by y. So to get rid of multiplication, we divide. Divide each side by 5. And 55 divided by 5 is 11. And this last one, we need to get rid of the divided by 3, and the opposite of dividing by 3 is to multiply by 3. So then 7 times 3 is 21. And that is how we would solve those 4 equations. So like I said, today we are going to learn how to solve one- and two-step equations. What is an equation? An equation is a statement of equality that have two expressions. So basically you have two different expressions that have some type of numbers, letters, a combination of both, and they're equal to each other. Because we have the equal sign, we are able to find what the variable equals. We're able to solve and do some work to find what the variable equals. In order to do this, we need to isolate the variable that we are trying to solve for. And in order to isolate the variable, we have to use inverse operations. These inverse operations reverse the effects of another operation. Think about we're undoing it. That way we could reveal the variable that we are trying to solve. So multiplication undoes division and vice versa, and addition undoes subtraction and vice versa. So now let's look at this also one-step equations that are a little bit harder because we have some decimals and some fractions. So here I have 3 over 7 plus a equals 4 over 7. I want to get this a by itself, but I have a positive 3 over 7. So to get rid of it, I would subtract 3 over 7. And if you did that in your calculator, we would get 1 over 7. All right, let's look at this next one. I have 2.9 equals y minus 6.3. Well, I want to get y by itself, but I had this minus 6.3. So I'm going to add 6.3 to both sides. So I would get y equals 2.9 plus 6.3. I get 9.2. Good job. Let's look at this next one. I want to get rid of the divided by 0.2, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 0.2. All right, so we will get v equals 0.2 times negative 3.5. I get 0.7. Alrighty, and let's look at this next one. I need to get rid of 4 over 5 that's being multiplied by z, so I could divide by 4 over 5. Divide by 4 over 5. And I get z equals, this one I have to do in my calculator, negative 6 over 7 divided by 4 over 5. I get negative 15 over 14. Good job. All right, so now you try these equations. Pause the video and see if you can do these on your own. So we want to get t by itself, but we have this 5 over 3 that's being added, so I'm going to subtract it. I will get t equals 2 over 3 minus 5 over 3. I get negative 1. All right, this next one, we have w minus 9, so we have to get rid of the minus 9, so we add 9, and we get w equals negative 4.1 plus 9, 4.9. Alright, this next one, we need to get rid of negative 9.9 that's being multiplied by t. So, we divide by negative 9.9. Divide by negative 9.9, and that would give us t equals positive 1. And this next problem, we have d as being divided by 5 over 4, so we need to multiply by 5 over 4. Multiply by 5 over 4. So d equals 5 over 4 times 6 over 5. 3 over 2. And that is a wrap up on solving one-step equations. There's just one thing you have to do to isolate the variable. Now we are going to learn how to solve two-step equations. Most of the time to do these, you are going to first start by adding or subtracting to isolate the variable term. Then you are going to multiply or divide to get rid of the coefficient that's in front of that variable. And then you can check your solutions. So let's look here. I'm going to leave this 2x alone. Forget about the 2x for right now. I need to get rid of that positive 3, so I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides. So I get 2x equals 4. And now, to get rid of that 2, I'm going to divide 2 on both sides. So I would get x equals 2. Alright, the next one. I need to get rid of the 15. The 15 is positive, so I'm going to subtract 15 on both sides. That is because we leave this variable term by itself, and we see what else is on the same side as the variable term, the negative 15, so subtract the positive 15, so subtract 15 on both sides. We are left with negative w over 4 equals 28 minus 15 is 13. Okay. Now to get rid of the divided by 4, we need to multiply. But there's also a negative on that side. So if we multiply by negative 4, then we could right away get rid of both the negative and the 4. So we would get w equals 13 times negative 4, which is negative 52. Now if you wanted to check if this is correct, you can type in your calculator 15 minus, instead of w, we could put our negative 52. Over 4, and we want the answer to be 28, which it is, so we are good. Alright, let's look at these we do problems. We want to get rid of the positive 4, so we are going to subtract 4 on both sides. 13 minus 4 is 9, equals g divided by 3. And now to get rid of divided by 3, we multiply by 3 on both sides. And we get g equals 27. Let's look at this next one. You want to leave the 2n alone, but on the same side as 2n is that positive 5, so to get rid of the 5, we subtract 5 on both sides. So we will get 2n equals negative 6, then divide by 2, we get n equals negative 3. Alrighty, let's look at this next one. We want to get this negative 3x by itself. So to get rid of positive 6, we are going to subtract 6 on both sides. We will get negative 3x equals 21 minus 6 is 15. Then to get rid of the negative 3, we are going to divide by negative 3 on both sides. And we get x equals negative 5. And pause the video and try this next one. See if you can do it yourself. We want to get this variable term by itself. So to get rid of that, to do that, we need to get rid of the minus 2, which means we got to add 2 to both sides. So we will have n over negative 3 equals negative 16. And to get rid of the minus 3, we are going to times 3 on both sides. Because it was n divided by negative 3. And to get rid of a negative 3, you want to multiply on both sides because it was being divided, so we multiply. And negative 16 times negative 3 is 48. And again, you can check by just plugging in 48 and seeing do you get negative 18 out. Alright, now these are two-step equations again, which just might look a little bit more confusing because there's fractions. It's fine, we can do it. Let's look at this. So, leave the variable term alone and ask yourself what's on the same side as the variable term? Is the negative 4. We want to bring that to the opposite side, so instead of subtracting 4, we are going to add 4 to both sides. So then we get negative 2 over 3m equals 14. Now, then negative 2 over 3, even though it's a fraction being multiplied by m, because it's just a number. And now, to get rid of that, we are going to divide. So we get 14 divided by negative 2 over 3. Which gives us m equals negative 21. Perfect. All right, let's look at this next one. I want to get rid of the minus 3, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I will get 28 equals 1 over 4, which is being multiplied by n. To get rid of multiplication, I divide. So 28 divided by 1 over 4, we get 112. Nice job, nice job. Alrighty. Now we are moving on to the individual practice. Everybody should be trying this on their own so they can see if they would get it right. So let's look at this. We want to get that negative 1/2 x by itself. So we are going to add 7 to both sides. We get negative 1 over 2x equals negative 11 plus 7 is negative 4. And now we want to get that x by itself, so we need to divide by negative 1/2. And we get negative 4 divided by negative 1 over 2. We get 8. And this next one, to get rid of the 12, we are going to subtract it since it's a positive 12. This negative belongs to 3 over 5p, which we're trying to get by itself. So now 12 minus 12 is 0, so we can cross that off. We will have negative 3 over 5p equals negative 27 minus 12 is negative 39. Then we need to divide by negative 3 over 5. And we get negative 39 divided by negative 3 over 5. We get 65. Alrighty. Now, what you will see below is 8 different regions questions. These are all different questions that are taken straight from the Regents, and they're equations questions. They're like 1 and 2 step equations, maybe a tiny bit more difficult. What I was trying to teach you guys here is that you can solve these questions by using your calculator. You don't necessarily need to solve these out when they're multiple choice, because you don't need to show all of your work when it's multiple choice. So I sadly can't show you on this calculator, but basically what you would be doing is you'd be telling your calculator that x equals each of these answer choices, and then you can type directly in the equation, and the calculator would be able to tell you true or false. If you typed in x equals negative 2 over 3, then you typed in this whole thing, it would say false. Let me just show you why. If you had 5 minus 3, and you replaced x with negative 2 over 3, that answer would just give you 7, but we need to get -7. So that's why your calculator would tell you false. You would then go ahead and try positive 2 over 3. So you would tell your calculator that x equals 2 over 3. You would type in the same equation, and it would say false. The reason why it would say false is because that left side would end up giving you 3, and 3 does not equal -7. So then you would tell your calculator that x equals -3, and you would type in the expression, and that would also be false because you would see that the left side would get you 14, the right side would get you -7. Those aren't equal. But if you tried the last answer choice, which is 4, and you replaced x with 4, one second, I typed something in wrong. You would get -7, which -7 is equal to -7, so that would be your answer. If you guys want to see, I did do all of these out. You will have a calculator, our school calculator, which could help you do these without doing them by hand, but I did do them all out if you want to pause the video and try each one by hand and see if you could get them right. So this is how you would solve number 1. This is how you would solve number 2. And number 3. Number 4 gets a little bit more complicated because it has all those fractions in it, no problem. And you would get x equals 1/2. Number 5. This one you need to get all the denominators to be the same, which we'll be learning in like 4 lessons. These are more fraction ones. And that last one. Alrighty, so that wraps up our lesson on solving 1- and 2-step equations.